So I feel like talking about Jabari Parker a little bit. But before I do that, in the description, there's a link to my podcast. I recently talked about Ja Morant after watching his game, because that was a pretty interesting thing. Anyway, Jabari Parker, his team option is going to be declined by the Wizards, of course, because it's $20 million. He's not that good of a player right now, and the reason they traded for him was because of that contract. But is there a chance the Wizards could bring Jabari back next season? Well, I think the thing with Jabari is, throughout all of the weirdness of his career so far in terms of injuries and changing teams a couple times, he's consistently been the same player. There's good and bad sides to all that. The good is he can score from within the three-point line pretty effectively, can beat guys off the dribble and all that stuff, and his three-pointer has been getting a little more active as he's been in the league. The bad is he sucks on defense, he's a bad playmaker, and sometimes he looks like he doesn't give a crap. But I think the number one thing for him is being healthy, and then number two is a team actually committing to him. The problem is, who the hell is going to give this guy a longer-term contract? I don't know. Maybe if Jabari was content with not taking $20 million a year, then he could end up somewhere for maybe like a 3-year deal where some team could really buy into him. And if I was a bad team, if I was running a bad team, I would certainly consider it, because Jabari's potential is still there. I mean, his third season, 20 points a game on some pretty decent efficiency for the Bucks. Even then, still some things you'd like to see improved from him, but he was definitely going in the right direction, right? Now, as for the Wizards, would they bring him back? I mean, between Thomas Bryant and Satoransky and Jabari, those are three guys who they're going to think about re-signing. I think of those three, Thomas Bryant is probably the highest priority, because this team is desperate for a big who can actually be not terrible. Also, I should mention Bobby Portis as well. I think they are hoping that he can really jump as a player. So there's definitely decisions the Wizards are going to have to make in terms of who do they want to keep. And, maybe I can picture Jabari being there, but I'll be honest, if I was the Wizards front office, and maybe I'll end up looking like a fool for having this mindset right now, but if I was them, I would prioritize Thomas Bryant and then Bobby Portis over Jabari Parker. Anyway, if we go out into the open market and just look at teams that could take on Jabari, I guess he could be a huge fallback for the Knicks, which is something that I'm saying about a lot of free agents at this point whenever I see New York. Hey, look, if they just had a horrible offseason and didn't get anybody and they just wanted to get another young guy, you could take a flyer on Jabari. The Knicks have done a pretty okay job with their young culture and everything, but at the same time, it might be best for Jabari to be on a veteran team, and this Knicks team's got a lot of young dudes. I could kind of picture the Pacers doing this, because between Miles Turner's defense, Nate McMillan growing into a pretty decent coach, and the amount of veterans on that team, I know they got a lot of free agents coming up. You got to assume that some of these guys are going to be back, between Bogdanovich and Thad Young and Corey Joseph and Darren Collison, and they're still going to have Oladipo. I feel like that's a nice core veteran thing going on, where Jabari could just have the right type of stuff around him and nobody's being stupid, and it's professionals, and that's probably the thing that Jabari really needs right now. And they could also use his scoring. I mean, that team still needs guys who can score off the dribble. I mean, I guess with how good Bojan has been lately, they could view him and Oladipo as a 1-2 punch moving forward. I think you could insert Jabari into that, and I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, the Pacers, they play a pretty smart brand of basketball, and they've got enough defense to hopefully cover up some of Jabari's underwhelmingness, if that's a word there. Even so, Jabari's going to have to be a better defender. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't watched the Wizards like that. For all I know, he's been a pretty model citizen defensively, but he's certainly built up a track record, and even if he's never going to be a good defender or anything, just be not horrible. Like, at least care. That's all we ask. I mean, given Jabari's size, you'd think that if you put him on the worst guy on the other team and he gives a crap, that can be enough to where he can just not kill you there. And then hopefully the offensive stuff keeps on keeping on, right? So I do like the idea of the Pacers thinking about getting Jabari. I think the Jazz could also think about it. I mean, they've got some other things they need to decide on between which point guard is right next to Donovan Mitchell and all that, but that team has needed some offense, and they're also really good on defense, so perhaps that could be a nice place for Jabari to see if he's got it. I would trust the Spurs to turn around pretty much anybody's career. I think the Grizzlies, if they've got the exceptions, because I don't know how expensive Jabari's going to be, but I'm going to assume it's definitely not $20 million again. You know, they've still got some veterans between Conley and Valanciunas pick up with something, and Jaren Jackson could maybe hide some of Jabari's problems on defense. I guess that's an idea. I would love to see Jabari end up in Miami, because we've seen how good those guys are at getting guys into shape, and Spoelstra is, of course, one of the best coaches in the league, and between Josh Richardson, Winslow, and Bam, Jabari could be another young dude that you can feel some type of way about moving forward, but they're pretty swamped with salary, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get out of any contracts. Maybe they'd have some sort of an exception, but even then it'd be pretty cheap, and I have to assume that Jabari is worth at least more than $5 million a season, so that one might be a little bit of a pipe dream, but if we are thinking about the best place for Jabari to end up, it really might be the Miami Heat. And between there's a bunch of other teams in the middle. I mean, whatever. To get back to Jabari as a player a little bit, I think right now the number one thing for him, on top of being healthy and finding a good place, is can he just be TJ Warren? Because when you look at TJ's game and his come up in the league and where Jabari's at right now, I think that's a pretty good comparison. The 6'8" small forward / power forward who's really good at scoring within 15 feet or so and cutting and being really efficient while not even getting to the free throw line that much. And maybe Jabari can make the 3-point jump that TJ has this year, who knows, but that's kind of the best gateway for Jabari to be a real NBA player at this point. So hopefully he can actually do that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have on Jabari Parker. If I was a team in a precise type of situation, whether it's I'm bad and I just want to take a flyer on a young dude, or it's I'm good, I've got a lot of veterans, we're good defensively, and we just need a little bit more offense, I would consider it. I certainly would not break the bank for the guy, and I wouldn't want to go with too many years, but there's definitely room for Jabari Parker to still be a complimentary piece on an NBA team.